Next, I want to update you on hostage negotiations discussions by Israel's war cabinet last night, representing Israel's national unity government. The war cabinet unanimously decided Israel will continue its operation in Rafah in order to apply military pressure on Hamas to release our hostages and achieve all the war's objectives. Despite Hamas's grandstanding, Hamas's proposal is far from Israel's core demands. Nevertheless, Israel will dispatch a ranking delegation to Egypt to maximize any chance of an agreement on terms acceptable to Israel to get our hostages out of Hamas's hand. Israel is committed to pursuing every avenue diplomatically and militarily to get our people home. I remind you that every moment they are held in captivity is a war crime. Now an operational update from our effort to uproot the last 4 battalions of Hamas from Rafah. This precise counter-terrorism operation has begun. The IDF on radio in Arabic, flyers in Arabic, media in Arabic, internet, texts and phone calls, very specific, precise areas and streets in eastern Rafah, for them to move towards the expanded humanitarian area in Al-Mawasi and in Khan Yunis. There, they will receive full humanitarian aid, water, food, medical equipment, and shelter. Our intelligence has clearly shown that the Rafah crossing in particular with Egypt in eastern Rafah has been used for terrorist purposes. Our troops have now obtained operational control of the Gazan side of the crossing. Now, underneath that large border infrastructure are cross-border underground smuggling tunnels, sustaining and providing a lifeline to Hamas. These Hamas tunnels must be dealt with to shut off arms to the terrorists. International organizations working in the area have also been encouraged to temporarily evacuate prior to the beginning of the operation. Now, we note that remarkably, UNRWA has advised Gazans not to move. The same UNRWA who we've described as being a front for Hamas, a supposed humanitarian organization, has advised Gazans not to move out of harm's way. In the last 24 hours, IDF ground troops and Israeli Air Force fighter jets have eliminated Hamas terror targets in Rafah. We've targeted military structures, underground tunnels. 20 terrorists have been eliminated and 3 operational tunnel shafts have been located. Now, in videos and newscasts of the IDF's effort to liberate Rafah from Gaza, you won't see any of the cowardly Hamas fighters. The reason for that is they'll be hiding behind women and children. Next, an update from Kogat on the influx of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Sunday's Hamas deadly rocket fire targeting the humanitarian crossing of Kerem Shalom, which killed 4 of our young soldiers. It targeted the same crossing today as well at 11 a.m. As a result, Kerem Shalom and Nitzana crossings have been closed. So this is Hamas attacking the food lifeline, the very food lifeline to ordinary Gazans. Nevertheless, yesterday, 94 pallets were airdropped over northern Gaza, containing tens of thousands of packages of food. 46 aid trucks were delivered to northern Gaza. 88% of coordination requests for aid deliveries are approved. 35 trucks went through Israel's Ashdod port and then through the Erez crossing in the north of Gaza. 26 bakeries, Gaza bakeries, provide 5 million breads, rolls and pita breads daily. The northern water pipeline from Israel is now fully operational, providing an average of 50 litres per person per day. Today, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., the IDF usual pause in operations in parts of Khan Yunis enabled the movement of humanitarian aid. The issue has never been about getting aid into Gaza, but getting aid to the civilians of Gaza who need it the most before it is looted by Hamas. So, more food aid enters Gaza every single day, 520,000 tons of aid, 27,000 trucks of food, water, medical supplies without limit, and shelter. The humanitarian aid arrives at the Gaza Strip, as we've said, by sea, by land, and by air. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now take your questions, which you should put in the chat. Please remember to include your news outlet. Thank you very much. First question, please.
First question is from Joel Pollack of Breitbart News, and he asks, Axios and the Times of Israel both report that Israeli officials say they were surprised by Hamas's attempt to claim it had accepted a ceasefire, and that the U.S. had worked with mediators without Israel's knowledge. Can you confirm that Israel was surprised and that it was not informed by the U.S.?
Thank you for that question, Joel. I can't comment on that, but what I can tell you is that the sickness of Hamas continually surprises us. The fact that they shoot rockets over Kerem Shalom, targeting Kerem Shalom, the very lifeline of the people which they supposedly represent, has surprised us. But of course, the inhumane acts of this terrorist organization is the reason why we are going out, we're going after them. We're getting civilians out of harm's way, and we're going after the terrorist masterminds of Hamas. There are 4 last battalions in Rafah. We're going after them. What you saw last night was Hamas trying to save their skin, but it won't work. Yes, of course, we're always open to a diplomatic resolution to try and get our people out of Hamas's hands. But I must tell you that this operation in Rafah is designed to destroy the last 4 battalions of Hamas. All of us here in Israel, which send our sons and daughters into the army, the government, all the people in Israel here, the overwhelming majority, wall to wall, there is support for this operation, because this deadly terrorist organization must be defeated. This country will be protected, and Hamas will be completely annihilated. Next question, please.
You have an additional question from Joel, and he asks, can you repeat the statistical numbers on loaves of bread and pitas?
Thank you very much for that, Joel. Loaves of bread and pitas. I said in my brief that 5 million pita breads and rolls are produced by, I think I said 26 bakeries every single day in Gaza to provide the food. So together with that food going in, with the water situation, of which 90% of Gaza's water comes domestically from Gaza, of course, the food going in, the water and the aid going in mean that there is no shortage of aid going to Gaza, or food. Where there is hunger in Gaza, it is hunger orchestrated by Hamas. It is within Hamas's interest to try and produce a negative image of their people. We're getting as much food aid in as possible, if only Hamas would stop throwing mortars and rockets at the crossing points. But despite that, we're still getting the food aid in, and that's our objective, to make sure that Gazans do not go hungry. Our enemy, of course, in all of this work is to get rid of Hamas. Our target is Hamas, not ordinary Gazans. We know that they're not going anywhere. We here in Israel are not going anywhere. Ultimately, we will need to live in peace and security for both peoples. Our objective is to get rid of Hamas and focus after that on building a better future, not just for Gazans, but for Israelis as well. Next question, please.
You have a question from Gidi Kleiman of the BBC, and he says, can you confirm that Israeli officials will go to Cairo in the next few hours, and whether they have a mandate to conduct negotiation?
Thank you for that question, Gidi. Yes, I did confirm that in my briefing, made that quite clear. The government has given a mandate for our negotiators to go on that trip. They are mandated by Israel's government, of course, and our ultimate objective is to get our people out of Hamas' hands, whether it happens diplomatically or militarily. We would prefer that it happened. Of course, we would prefer that it happened battered. But Hamas, in either case, will be defeated. Our objective, one of our three objectives, is to ensure Gaza can never again be a threat to Israel again. And that, of course, means that we will destroy Hamas. And of course, it means we will bring back 132 hostages. Next question, please.
Question from Victoria Elms of Sky News UK. She asked, aid organizations there are saying there's no aid entering Gaza by land crossing as of this morning. Can you confirm this, please?
No, that's incorrect. Thank you for that question. That's incorrect. So I made clear in figures from yesterday. Today's figures, please go directly to COGAT. They go into Gaza. I've got information up until yesterday when we said that crossings of the north was the way together with other routes of getting aid into Gaza, airdrops, etc. So Hamas has made it their objectives to destroy or to threaten those crossings. 4 of our young soldiers, one of them was 18, the other 3 were 19 years old, were killed yesterday, and they were protecting that border crossing, trying to get as much aid into Gaza as possible. I think it's extremely important that when people talk about this conflict, that the role of Hamas in stopping aid from getting into Gaza is reported. Simply coming up with this line that there's no aid going into Gaza. Number one, it's not true. And of course, it obscures the fact that it's Hamas that is trying to stop. They're looting the trucks and they're trying to stop this aid into coming in. Why? Because they're trying to save their skin. They want to stop this aid into coming in. Too many people are swallowing blood, creating this false narrative against Israel and our people. We're trying to get as much aid as we possibly can into Gaza, and that effort is being hampered. It's being hampered, and it will not stop because we have other ways of getting it in. Next question, please.
Question from Lauren Monks of newspaper. They ask, you said, quote, precise counter operation in Rafah, but also, quote, the annihilation of 4 Hamas battalions. What kind of scale of military operations will we see in the coming days?
Thank you very much for that question. I won't be sharing with you our precise military strategy in defeating the last battalions of Hamas in Gaza. What I can tell you is that our army and our soldiers and our people are determined. I've told you about our precise operations. We've released maps of the areas which we're going for. I've told you already that we have secured the border crossing where so much of Hamas's deadly arms have made their way through. We've secured that border crossing with Egypt, and we will do everything in our power to bring our hostages home. I remind you that the last 2 hostages which were rescued from Gaza were rescued from Rafah. The mortars and rockets which were too many people for too long is to not take seriously when terrorists say the things that they want to do. That is not a problem which we suffer from here in Israel. When terrorists say that they want to kill us, we believe them. We believe their sincerity, and we're going after them. Hamas will no longer be able to threaten us from anywhere in Rafah. Thank you very much. Next question, please.
We have a question from Frederick Edgar of Interplanetary Television, and he says the Turkish vice president says that Israel's operation in Gaza's Rafah city marks another war crime by Israel, and Turkey will continue working for Israel's leadership to be legally punished. What is Israel's government's response to the Turkish vice president?
Thank you for that question, Fred. So the actions of Turkey in this war have been nothing short of. They are, the images coming out of Hamas officials, leading officials, in warm embraces with Turkey's president simply just confirms his dictatorial status over that country. Unfortunately, the one place where it's looking more and more likely that Hamas have safety and security is in Turkey now. So it looks like Turkey is trying to nurture a reputation as the terrorists' friend. The Prime Minister have made our measures and our views against Turkey and its president extremely clear. Thank you very much. Next question, please.
You have a question from NPR, and they ask, last night, Hamas said it had agreed to an Egyptian-Qatari ceasefire proposal. Israel says the terms do not meet its demands. What are those terms, and how is the ceasefire proposal that Hamas agreed to different from the deal previously on the table?
Thank you for that question from NPR. We will not allow Hamas to remain standing at the end of this conflict. We simply will not allow Hamas to remain standing at the end of this conflict. Now, that is one of the three war aims. The other war aims are to get our hostages released, and of course to ensure that Gaza never again can form a threat to us. Hamas are simply trying to save their skins. Look, NPR, this conflict would end this afternoon. Okay, this afternoon before we here in Israel put our kids to bed.